Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. On this video we're going to talk about our first year on the boat. So it was a year past Thursday that we bought the boat. So we spent 6 weeks doing the boat up and then we moved on board. So we thought we would just talk about the common misconceptions, what we've enjoyed the most, what we haven't enjoyed, and also talk about how much it actually costs to live on a boat per month. So we're going to start with what have we enjoyed?
For myself, enjoyed the project of it. I'm sure Kayleigh did as well. There's times when we probably wasn't enjoying it because we'd done it in such a tight deadline.
Yeah.
But we definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. The whole, everything we've done to it, we've done ourselves. You know, you make it your own and you enjoy it then, don't you?
Yeah. I think for me the main thing is probably just living by the water. I think it's really peaceful, and being so close to nature and having the ducks swimming past and stuff I think is nice. Sometimes it's not nice though, because of the storms that we've had in the last sort of week or so, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Yeah. And when the ducks wake you up at 4 AM in the morning.
No, the geese are the worst.
Oh, geese are
Yeah.
But, as a few of you may know as well, we lived a bit differently before we had the boat. So another great thing about this, although it's only a 37-foot boat, is when we bought this boat we actually doubled our living space. So when we first moved on it felt like we was having a mansion. So all the extra space,
Yeah.
it's a great thing to have. So because we used to live in a campervan a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing that we like about living on the boat, so before we moved onto the campervan we were renting, and we kind of felt like our money wasn't really going anywhere because we were just paying it to somebody else. So it's quite nice now to be paying towards something that you own, and that's a big motivation for us to live this sort of lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's been small enough to be able to afford it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Another good thing about this boat and being on it for a year is you discover a great community. Yeah, like whether it be in the marina or outside the marina, everyone is always so friendly. We've made really good friends in the marina, who I think we've made friends for life with them, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and just everybody's so helpful.
Mhm.
You know, like if you don't have something, and everybody will lend it to you. And we've got our neighbour, one of our neighbours, who's an experienced boater. He's been giving us lots of pointers and is always able to help us answer questions and give us different ideas to try things if something that we've tried isn't working. And that's really nice.
yeah, I think talking about our neighbours as well. Another good thing about having Kayleigh.
It's alright.
Should I take that again? I think talking about our neighbours as well, another great thing about having the boat for you is if we ever want to move anywhere we could just go and we don't have to pack anything. It just
Yeah.
all comes with you. Like I remember when we first went out with one of our friends, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, but he was like, oh, what do I pack? You just start your boat and you go, it's all there with you. Yeah, you have to pack it all a bit differently probably, you know, make sure nothing's going to fall, but that's about it.
Yeah. Another thing as well from being on a boat, particularly a narrowboat, I don't know if it's the same for other boats, but we've had to get used to the slower pace of life. Narrowboats don't move particularly fast, and it's been really nice to just slow down and just enjoy it rather than being like the usual rushing around everywhere and rushing to get places as quickly as we can. And we really have had to adjust and just go with the pace that it takes and the time it takes to fill locks and empty locks and queue to get in and out of locks. It all takes time, but what else have we've not really got much else to do, so
Yeah,
it's nice to just enjoy it and really see a place without like rushing through it or rushing through the countryside where
yeah,
being slowing down.
like you said, like the whole being close to nature thing, like the other night, not when it was storming because we'd be mad to do that, but like we sat outside and I think I was working on a little project for the boat and Kayleigh was reading, but we both sat outside and
Yeah, it
you
was
know,
really nice.
you had the sunset and you had the ducks swimming past and the swans swimming past, and you know it's all nice, you know, to be sit in your garden and do it, but how many people actually do that?
Yeah,
in
well,
their
when we had
gardens?
our house that we lived in
We never
before,
done it.
we never done it. And being on the boat, I feel like we see every sunrise and every sunset, whereas before you just wouldn't really pay any attention to it. You'd be in the house, you'd shut the blinds, and that'd be it. Whereas here, like, we see it all the time. Partly because we don't have a blind on the front door, and that's kind of annoying. But
there's another project for me.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to watch it, and yeah, there's a lot of good things.
Yeah. Another great thing about living on the boat is like I said earlier, you know, you got your community, but seeing each different boat as well. You know, you can tell that one of our neighbours' boats is his boat because you can picture him on another one, but you know, each boat's individual to a person.
Yeah.
And each boat is unique. Some may look the same outside, but once you get inside, everyone's done them differently. So
and you can't even tell like
No.
what a boat looks like on the outside. It can look completely different on the inside.
it's a good variety of people and a good variety of boats.
So the next thing is the biggest misconception that we had, that we thought about before we moved on board. Mine was it being cold in the winter. It's absolutely not cold in the winter. If anything, it's too hot.
Yeah, it goes the opposite way, especially when we was first getting used to the stove. I think the first time I got the coal fire going in there, it was like, yeah, I've got to go and look how much coal I got burning, and then about an hour later I was regretting that because every single door and window was open.
Yeah,
Trying to let all the
absolutely
heat out
sweating. And I think as well, because we've only got a small boat, the wood burning stove that we have is so powerful, and I think it could heat double the space.
Yeah, it is still a small stove, but it's probably double the size that we need, to be honest, because I think it puts about 4 kilowatt to 5 kilowatts, so it's a lot of heat in our small space. And I think one reason you thought about coldness and stuff like that is because when we had the van. Yeah,
the van used to be freezing. Yeah. You know, you'd have that cold part before you would start up your heater, and when our first camper van didn't even have a heater. No. So we would wake up in the morning in the winter and it would be so cold.
And the worst part was putting cold clothes on in the morning.
Oh yeah, that was brutal.
Especially after, I was going to say after a shower, but not a shower.
We used to live pretty rough, but I think it's given us a real appreciation of all the things that we do have now, and we wouldn't ever take heating and hot showers for granted.
That's one thing that I still find weird. You know, we've got a boat, but on your boat, I think a lot of people do it when they come on the boat or they go on a boat. They go, oh, they've got a shower, they've got a working sink, and obviously people who live on boats know that, but like they expect like a camping shower, whereas our shower looks like it would belong in a house.
Yeah.
So it's getting used to that as well.
Yeah, and I think the other misconception that some people have is like, how can you comfortably work from home? And we find that it's not a problem. Like, we have built a little office space which we'll do a separate video on. But the whole time from moving on the boat, we've always had Wi-Fi. We've got an unlimited data plan. We've got plenty space to have a working environment with a desk and seats, and yeah, you can comfortably work from home. I do it and we have no problems.
Yeah,
we both did it over the lockdown period.
Yeah, I was working from home for a short period as well, but the nature of my job, I sort of need to be on site as well to get my work done. So
yeah. So what's been the easiest part about having a boat?
I'd say driving it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's definitely, once you get it in your head, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But I think you overcomplicate it when you try to think about where you're going or whatever. But yeah, I think that's been one of the easiest things. I find that driving the boat's actually a lot easier than the locks, which doesn't actually make sense now that we've done loads of locks. But I couldn't get my head around that.
Yeah, I think though, because we had been on hire boats before, we've been on somebody else's boats before and stuff like that, but there's always been other people present. So then when we got our own boat, it's your boat, so if you do something to it when you're driving it, it's sort of your responsibility. And with it being our home as well,
I think that's the thing.
That adds another, it adds another bit of fear to it, I suppose, before you actually drive it. But once you actually, you've been on the tiller for an hour, it's
fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, what are you doing, Coco? The other thing I really like as well is living in a small space. So we find the less stuff you have, just the easier life is. You don't have as much stuff to worry about, and it's just stuff.
Or you declutter.
Yeah, like everything that we have on the boat has meaning or has multiple purposes, and it's something that we enjoy having. Like, whereas when we were in the house, we would have rooms and cupboards full of stuff that we just never used.
Yeah, we had a 3-bed house that we rented, and we used the living room and one of the bedrooms,
and that was in the kitchen, obviously.
Oh, and the kitchen.
And one of the 3 bathrooms.
And the garage, and one of the 3 bathrooms. But other than
you
that,
get
the 2 spare bedrooms was pretty much stuff, and you'd put it in there and not look at it again for another month. And then you sort of think, well, what have I still got?
Yeah, and also just buying stuff. Like, yeah, you just get stuck in a cycle of spending money on things that you don't actually want or need. You might want them for a little while, but then how much do you actually use them? You don't really. And that's the good thing about being on this boat, is we have to be selective, and we can't just buy stuff because there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah, sort of everything we have on the boat, yeah, there probably is a few wants, but most of them are on the boat because we need them on the boat.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. The hardest part. Yeah.
The storms, the weather.
Yeah, the weather. I think over the last 12 months, there's been quite a lot of extreme weather here. We've had the marina flooding in February of this year, and that's never happened in the 8 years that the marina's been open. 10 years, okay. Yeah. And the pontoons that our boats are tied up to don't float. So when the water level rises, the boats don't rise. Well, they do rise, but then because of the ropes, they're pulled over. And that was the problem that we had back in February. That we had to go around, because we live here, and we went around and untied a lot of people's boats that were leaning all the way over, because the marina flooded. So we always have to be really conscious of the water levels, and just keep checking the ropes don't get too tight. And we seem to just have some bad luck. I think we've mentioned it before on one of our previous videos, that the design of the back of our boat is not very good.
It's not. So when we had the storms the other night, we sort of had to. It weren't a pretty sight. It was at like 2-3 a.m. in the morning, and we was bailing water out the back of the boat, which has happened once before, but it is quite exceptional, the weather coming in last time. These storms just gone. So basically, the water normally, if you got the roof of the boat, the water comes in, trickles down off the side. But what was happening, because the water was giving that much pressure, is just flying off onto the back deck, and as we've got a cruiser stern, the engine bay was just filling with water. Not because we don't have guttering, we've got guttering, and it's not blocked. It's just because we've got a silly step which has a bit of a design fault on it, which I'm currently in the process of fixing. We would have filmed it, but filming wasn't our priority at that moment in time.
Yeah. So what happens is the water drains from off the roof and goes down into the step. And the step has a hole underneath it, which allows the water to then drain into the engine bay for the bilge pump to take care of. But basically, what happened was it was just overwhelming the system because there was too much water. It was like standing on the roof with a hose and just shooting it down. So what we've actually done to rectify it is we've attached. I don't know if you want to explain. You're probably better explaining this.
I've drilled a new skin fitting in the side of the boat. And I've attached that skin fitting to a hose pipe which leads to this hole in the step. So it's not eliminated the water coming in, but at least the water then comes in the boat and it goes straight back out,
rather than sitting in the engine bay.
It's not completely finished yet, because what I need to do, unfortunately, because the step is lower than the water level of the canal, the skin fitting has had to go higher. So to combat that, the gravity can't push the water through the pipe, so I'm going to have to put a little pump with a micro switch on it onto that pipe, just so then when the pipe fills with water, it'll turn the pump on and chuck the water out of the boat. So it's just another 12-month thing we've got to add. And to be honest, it's never normally an issue, but when we had that storm, we just want to be safe.
Yeah, and I think the problem that we've got is that we couldn't leave the boat for prolonged periods of time, because in its current situation, it would just fill. The engine bay would just fill with water.
Yeah.
So we're taking steps to stop that from happening, and making sure that if it does happen, the pumps and things that we've got in will be able to kick in themselves.
Yeah, it's like we've got an automatic bilge pump, but I've lifted the engine board before now, and I don't know if you just silicone it down or just do something simple, put a brick on top of it. But the float switch didn't move on it. So I lifted the engine board, and the bilge pumps there floating in the water rather than just pumping it out. So as it is floating, the switch hasn't kicked in, so the pump's not turned on. Obviously, had a manual override on it at the time as well, so I just turned it on to manual. But this is when we'd actually come back from 2 weeks in Scotland as well, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, and then when the engine bay gets water, and you can see because the boat's back end drops down, and it just sits at a weird angle. It just doesn't look good.
Gives it a bit of a weird list.
Yeah. And I think that's what's always been the issue with this boat is that's its main fault. Water
ingress into the stern.
Yeah.
But
so the other hardest part about being on the boat is
obviously we both work full time, so we have jobs to get to. Kayleigh says obviously she works on the boat a lot, but sometimes she does have to go see customers and or just go into your office as well.
Yeah, I think it just kind of changed a bit because COVID. Obviously, we're not traveling so much for work, and it's kind of we're sitting with two vehicles that. Do we need to keep them? And if we do become continuous cruisers, which is the plan, where are we going to put them? And
it's all well and good, taking the car with you and where you cruise, but both our vehicles I'd like to say are quite nice vehicles. I personally own a motorbike, and Kayleigh has a nice car, and I know people leave them at bridges and the likes, but I think we have to consider what we're going to do with the car, what we're going to do with the bike. So the bike's easy enough to go into storage, but the car, I reckon, it's on the cards. Sell it maybe, or
we've got a few ideas of what we want to do with the car or potentially other vehicles. So we just have to make a decision on that as to what's going to work best.
Yeah. Another hard thing as well is where do we put stuff? I know we said, we only buy stuff we need, but sometimes you buy stuff you need and you still need space to put it. It's like, say I bought a new tool for the boat. My tool cupboard is full.
What is it, Hugh? I think somebody's got a bit of jealousy. Come on now.
Hugo, come here.
Excuse us a minute while we sort the dogs out. Who's that, Hugh? You saying hello to the camera? Cute.
Right.
So one of the other things that we were thinking about are the questions that we've been asked about other people thinking, oh, could I live on a boat or whatever. Is living on a boat okay for anyone?
No.
I would say no.
It depends on the type of person you are. Like, I know I can think of quite a few people off the top of my head who wouldn't dare empty a toilet.
Yeah.
But obviously once you've done that, after a while it becomes, it doesn't bother you, but other people are just, I'm not going to bother trying it at all, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's hard work as well, because you've got to think about where your water's coming from. You've got to think about how much water you're using. You need to think about your gas, your electric. You don't just have a constant supply.
No.
And you have to be sort of prepared to come in from work and fill your water tanks and sort out your electric.
Or move the boat if you're out.
Yeah. And also obviously the toilet's a big one, because a lot of people don't like talking about toilets, don't like the thought of having to empty their own waste, but we've been used to it. We've done it for so long now with the campervan previously, and the composting toilet is so easy to manage.
Yeah,
it's it's fine.
And another thing that I'd say is, like, you definitely have to be hands-on. Like I say, the other night the boat was flooding, so it's like you have to, in that situation, be able to deal with it. You have to rely on yourself to fix those issues.
Yeah.
But then it's like simpler stuff, like in our previous cruise video you seen our 12 volt relay for charging your leisure batteries stopped working. Now what a lot of people might do in that situation is say, I'll get RCR out, that's going to cost you 85 quid in the call out, and then you've got to pay for parts and then investigation and stuff. But
it becomes really expensive if you can't do work yourself. And even like just with small things like doing the project ourselves and refitting stuff on the boat, and even like it was recently when we were out on the trip, like our 12 volt wasn't charging. Like we could have faced almost 3 weeks with no electric if we couldn't have fixed it ourselves, or like Steve says, we could have called out RCR and then
it cost money. I know that's what RCR are there for, but
yeah, I think being hands-on and being able to fix things yourself is really important.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. So, that said though, would we recommend it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if you weren't going to live on a narrowboat, I'd say give it a 2-week holiday. Give it a chance, because I think if you'd done like a day boat, you get a little bit of a taste of it, but you don't really appreciate what a narrowboat offers you in terms of being by nature, and day boats tend to have less facilities than... Yeah,
they're not as comfortable as what a real narrowboat's like. But yeah, we would definitely recommend it to anyone. It's such a peaceful way of life, and it's quite a cheap way of life as well, to be honest. Like, we'll get into the finances, but I mean, they're generally speaking cheaper to buy than a house. They do have their issues with maintenance, and you do have to be prepared to spend money. Like anything that moves, it's going to cost money.
You need to stay on top of the maintenance with it.
Yeah.
You know, houses don't have engines, but we do have boilers which can break, which you have to service still.
Yeah.
So it's...
Hugo, what are you doing?
He's just licking the settee like a weapon. Hugo.
Stay. Hugo, stop that. Sit nice. That's enough, you. Why can't you be like your sister? Look, and just lie and sleep. You just like to be centre of attention, don't you? Oh, minging. Hugo!
I'm going to be quiet on this one and let Kayleigh take this over, because those who know us...
Yeah, one of us is into budgets and spreadsheets and managing money, and the other one's not, and you can work out which one that is. So we will insert a table for this next clip to show you how much everything costs. So basically, the first thing we have to pay is a boat license. So the boat license is determined based on the type of mooring you have and the length of your boat. So our boat is a 37-foot mooring, and we are continuous cruisers. So our monthly license fee is £63.53. The marina fees we pay quarterly at the moment, so that works out a little bit more expensive rather than paying up front for the year, but that's how we do it. So again, that's based on the length of the boat. So it's £170 a month roughly. Depends on the marina. Yeah, obviously we can only talk for this marina that we're staying in. We pay gas a month, so our gas bottle tends to last us a good few months at a time. So I've averaged that out at roughly £7 a month. But we really only change the gas bottle every 6 months.
Every 6 months, and
that's dead cheap.
Yeah, that's normally when our 9 kilo runs out. So we've got a 9 kilo and a 13. So it's...
Yeah, it's cheap. Electric. At the marina we have an electric hookup point, and that costs us roughly £20 a month. And that's for lights, charging laptops, copy machine, blender, things like that.
But again, that's only that's a marina cost. You know, if we was out on the network cruising, which is what we want to be doing.
Yeah, we would be hopefully generating our own.
But I suppose you could, that would increase the cost of a diesel or something.
Yeah, exactly. Laundry. We don't have a washing machine on board, so we use laundromats. They cost on average £15 a month, which again is fine. Kindling and coal. So obviously in the summer months we don't use the fire, but to average it out over the cost of the year, it works out about £20 a month for us. Over winter we do use the stove pretty much all the time. It runs continuously. So
yeah, we mainly do it because of the dogs, don't we? Because we can always put a jumper on, or we can.
Yeah, they are spoiled pooches. So yeah. Diesel. So at the moment, and with COVID, we haven't been able to travel that much on the boat, but we were out for almost 3 weeks, and we used barely any fuel. Actually, we filled the tank before we went. Didn't take that much money. So we've averaged diesel at about £20 a month. Internet, like we mentioned, we have a really good, cheap, unlimited internet deal, which is £22 a month. And boat maintenance, this varies, so it's quite hard to predict. Like, we obviously have to do blacking and new anodes and all the money we've just recently spent, so it's hard to average that, but I reckon it's probably around £100 a month, would you say?
Yeah.
So the total monthly cost that we spend on our boat is probably around just over £400 a month. Which obviously, if you compare that to a house, it's significantly cheaper.
It is.
So it's just going to help us with our future goals to be in a position where we're saving a lot of what we earn. So yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions or would like us to answer anything else that you would like to know, please let us know in the comments below. And if you can subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, that would also be great.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. So from us and the dogs, who are now settled, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Bye.